I am Cameron Johnson by name. 6'1", Quadroon by body, Old and Elder by soul. Occasionally go by Quadroon, a moniker. Reppin' LBC 562. Catch me. We here at the Vine Show. Just rocked out with the goons, my boys. Full band. Shouts to Alex, Davish, Frank, Carl. And Eddie, though he wasn't here, I still feel his soul. That's what's up. Yeah, word.
So, could you tell me, how did Quadroon first come together as a solo project or artist name? Like, when did the sparks start flying?
That's interesting. That's kind of a two-part question, I will say. Quadroon originated as a name which means 1/4 African ancestry, essentially quarter black. And that arose really with my grandfather, who was born in 1942 in the DC area. A quintessential force in my life. From there, as cousins and as individuals that were of the same lineage, you could say, or genetic makeup, we found the name Quadroon pretty early on, and we just thought like, oh, this is a really cool name. We're all Quadroons, so we kind of all identified as that close-knit, tight cousin relationship on that side. And from there, I did then discover, kind of down to the second part of your question, when did the sparks get flying? I discovered hip-hop at an early age. My father was a hip-hop fan and grew up and went to school in the late 90s or early 90s of some sorts. And he was exposed to the Roots, Black Thought, Public Enemy, Chuck D, and these are some of my early sources and inspirations that I grew up kind of listening to. And it was about when I was 13, I got my first iPod, classic, totally modern story, it's funny you break it down, and was able to essentially acquire my own music of some sorts, you know. That was when I had fell in love with the creation process. I believe the first album that I ever purchased was The Real Slim Shady, Eminem. And it was just, you know, from there and branched out to J. Cole and Atmosphere and Brother Ali and tons of individuals, Blue and Exile, Mick Jenkins, Vic Mensa, a variety of individuals that I could expand upon. It was really the beginning of finding my own voice, and from there it was clear that how I identified would be best captured in not only one of the coolest words I knew, but something that felt greatly connected on a root level to my relationship to my voice, to speaking, to hip-hop, as well as to family, which is something that the Quadroon, the music, the brand, and definitely the live performances in some ways seek to embody, you know, that sense of community. So yeah, there would be some ways that I go about answering, you know, where Quadroon kind of originated from and when it really got rolling.
That's incredible. Over time, when you really started embodying the name or really energy of Quadroon, how did you get into wanting to make your own music and really record it all and just like start performing?
I think it was like something that always interested me, like at the same time of finding, like, you know, and kind of accessing my own music, simultaneously was like the discover of marijuana, which kind of naturally for many led to freestyling. You get a group of buddies that all kind of knew hip-hop, and you knew some beats, and you get a little, you know, and you throw a beat on and you see what you could do. So an introduction to that, of which I by no means was good early, and yet I had a heightened vocabulary for my age and a brevity for speaking, and so there was something that I discovered in that practice that was absolutely informative for the rest of my life up to this point. And then secondarily, something that I was always fascinated in was my sister and I, like, we would take little videos, like going around the house and just doing dorky whatever, you know, making fun or doing little pranks and stuff. And I was always interested how my voice sounded different when I listened back on recording. And that was kind of my first intro to becoming aware of my recorded voice of some sorts. And when I was 13, I expressed some interest in this. For a birthday, my father got me 2 hours, or it was 3 hours studio at Legends Studio down in Brooklyn, New York. Legendary place where many of the greats have recorded. And shout out to Nick Price, first engineer I ever worked with. So I was able to record some songs there and kind of get exposure to a high level of professionalism within the creation process of music. And he was inspired and, you know, kind of knew the status. Hey, this is 13-year-old in his first session, but was able to supply me with a couple beats and hype me up and teach me how to write in bar structure. And from there, the thing just exploded. I fell in love with the writing process as a way of therapeutically expressing my thoughts and organizing what was going on internally in my life, which was a variety of factors: moving to New York from California, my parents divorcing, finding myself in baseball as one of my most performative and focused crafts at the time, and, you know, the different variety of struggles which comes from fitting in as well as attempting to get better at a particular athletic craft that by no means was I good at when I started. And so these were some of the things that I was juggling and coinciding. Writing and rapping to some extent, though I never really identified with it super strictly, though that was definitely an image. Like, I was inspired by rappers, by hip hop, but I kind of kept it in a looser artist genre, like a hobby pocket for quite a while. And it wasn't until I came out, probably at the end of my high school phase, where I realized, hey, I wasn't going to do baseball anymore, as well as moving to Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, where I met a lot of the individuals that I still work with today, and really leaned into the artist moniker and recorded and made tons of different projects. That's really where the not only obsession but the potentiality and in some ways just the obviousness that this was something that I was going to continue to do for the rest of my life, regardless of how it kind of worked in, and it just by far took the most prominence, even above my studies at the time, which were in philosophy. It became pretty clear, like first year, second year, like, hey, this is great and I'm going to succeed and get this knowledge and wisdom, but what I'm going to do is within music. And so within writing, within creating, within improvising, within performing, something of this, you know, whole kind of series of different, you know, techniques or styles, if you will. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Because like, just hearing so many people's stories about getting into freestyling is like similar to musicians learning how to like jam in a garage together. And then being able to like just generational divides. A lot of kids nowadays or younger generations got into freestyling or like recording through like the SoundCloud rap era.
For sure.
But like growing up, being 13, going to a studio blows my mind. It was like I had a similar experience myself as like a 13-year-old in a punk band playing at the Ventura Theater. It was like our first show ever. And that was like our entry to being like wanting to write music and play music. And
so
like,
cool. Yeah.
From the other perspective though, of like traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast, then being around this whole new friend base in Santa Cruz, how was that transition like different, and how was like actually being in person around all these like kids or college students in Santa Cruz different from the East Coast scene, and like how did that inspire you or really like shift the way you went about creating or freestyling? Or did you go to like studios when you came to Santa Cruz, or more like bedroom recording?
Yeah. So I definitely, you know, when I was in New York and I had that experience, it grounded me in realizing like, man, like I always had a mic at home, practiced a little bit, you know, GarageBand, like always had the demo set up and stuff. But it really did make me desire a certain quality in the material. At least give me a sense of what the ceiling could be, you know. And so I was always somebody who liked to put out everything that I was making and just share it with the world, for better or for worse. But in that, I like to kind of fulfill a range where, from then till now, I've always worked in what I would call professional studios, except probably till the last couple years, and where I've been focusing more on my self-engineering abilities, as well as working with the homie. Shout out to Dean Ricker Manning, incredible engineer, local to town. Up to at that point, I was always going to studios at different regiments and for different projects to continue with what felt like a professional sound, professional quality. But you get to your question, how did those experiences differ? In New York, it was fascinating. There, in my school, which was a smaller school in the suburbs north of the city in Westchester, and there weren't many MCs local. There were a couple individuals that I ended up linking with, and of course I would freestyle with the homies, but in terms of individuals that really also kind of on the, yeah, it's not serious when you're that age, but like, hey, I'm kind of more into this, like I'm doing this every day. There were a couple individuals that I resonated with and that we would go into the city and do some shows, but without a full kind of lean into that. It did feel a little bit more scattered and more kind of me honing on my individual craft. Very beneficial to my time in terms of enhancing my journal ability, my rhyme ability, my flow ability, like really being alone late at night in a basement or in a closet rapping and recording and looking back and you know, didn't really have as much of like a live sense. When I came to Santa Cruz, it was, mine was blown in terms of the expansion of the amount of artists that I was exposed to, as well as the amount of live events, shall we say, whether we'd just be going to shows casually at the Catalyst, of which I would later come to play myself and be inspired and see individuals, or then have things on campus, which was like coffee and hip hop, shout to Olive Gordon, hosting little events to freestyle that were literally a 10-minute walk from where I lived on campus. And it was just like, oh, well, this is a whole different level of availability and interactivity that definitely influenced grandly, now upon reflection, I hadn't even thought about this, how I go about music now, which is inherently collaborative and immensely grounded in community, not only for its intended effect, but in the creation, the production, the integration process, thoroughly working with many individuals at all times, and hold that the relationship between artists is arguably one of the most important factors which upholds the music community at large, and for that aspect, and BS, the music industry, quote unquote. And so, that was an element. And then obviously meeting with the goons. Shout out to all the goons that I named earlier. I met Alex and Sean. Shout out to Sean, who is an engineer, guitarist, producer, Sound the Verve, who I've also worked with. Went by Philo. Philo is dead now. He introduced me to Alex and later Davish, the drummer and guitarist for the Goons, and from there we just continued to rock live. And so that obviously massively shaped how I approached live shows, the orientation within local music communities, and then obviously with COVID, had my son, lived in Fresno for a little bit, came back down to Long Beach where my mother was living. Many of the Goons lived in or moved down to Long Beach. So it was a total blessing. We were able to continue that momentum, and definitely then has been kind of the next defining trend within the Quadroon lineage of collaboration, though consistently and always throughout, as climaxed by 35-song, 2.5-hour project, Stand Up, Stand Out, Stand Together, that I released 3 years after I graduated, actually, but was made the entire time I was in school, and was attempted to be this massive album where I got everybody that I ever worked with on one project at the point. It's kind of a pinnacle of this trinity of projects, the infinity symbol project first, and then Chi or IQ, the SUSO, SUSOST as we called it. And so all of those patterns were defined by those moments, by those travels, and shout out to Thailand. I also went and studied abroad in Thailand the summer of 2018 in Thammasat University, studied Buddhism and a little bit of Thai language. Kapkuka. Mimitine le. Yeah, nowhere. But all's to say is, without those movements, I would be a very different position and a very different artist. Don't think they would have slowed or stopped the artistry or the momentum, but they now filter and factor a large majority of the individuals that I call family.
Yeah, it's real. Like, over the years, you touched on when you came to Santa Cruz, just like really getting immersed into that DIY community, or just like community of artists.
Yeah.
When you first got to meet the Goons, what was it like being able to actually like play with a full band versus like recording in professional studios or like honing your craft solo those like long nights?
Very humbling and very freeing. And then I'll go inverse, like freeing in the sense of like immediately it was like, yo, this is way doper than any DJ, any 2-track setup could be. I mentioned many rap concerts. I worked with like a couple DJs. I'd self-DJ'd of some sorts and never got like great at it. I will say, like they're DJ, shouts to DJs and shouts to DJ Craft and shouts to Curtis and shouts to like the legends, DJ Primo. All right, why not just throw them in? There's a whole craft and art, and it's a pillar of hip-hop of which I think I'm still yet to develop the ideal relationship down the road that I do still pray for / I'm still honing with those that I know. But at the time, the exposure to the band was just such a level up in terms of dynamicness, in terms of quality of sound. And then the humbling and kind of the interesting side was like, wow, I really don't know a lot about instrumentation, about melodics, about notes, about bar different time sequences or different time signatures. And so being able to learn some of those things naturally, being kind of forced to, really leveled up a whole other side of the game, which was not only focusing how the music is made, how the creativity flows, but like what the point of it is all, which to me is definitely live sharing, live performance of some sorts. And so shouts to each and single one of the goons, and through the time, since I've always still worked with different producers and put out albums on streamers or made CDs or cassettes or pressed vinyl, we've been able to kind of find a process and a pocket where I can still kind of satisfy what I would say is kind of the more classical hip-hop, traditional relationship one-to-one with the producer, or stitching together a variety of producers and making a little project or LP. And then we'll bring some of that material live to the goons as well as write our own material, and then definitely include freestyle and improvisation at the center of the performance, which again, with a live band, I think really just makes that dynamic so improved. As obvious because you're working with, at that point, 5 to 6 freestylers, and if you all are really on the same page / have developed chemistry, the wonders you can do, I just feel, are always going to be superior to 1 to 2. Even if it's a great MC and DJ or a couple MCs and DJ relationship. That being said, shouts again, Curtis, we're gonna get you in there. We're gonna have the DJ as well. We're gonna have the whole setup. So yeah, we're working on definitely blending those worlds, but it is very, very impactful. And then too, even the recorded music that I've made since, influencing the recording and writing process, being able to capture some of the energy live and the adrenaline that is unreplicatable when you're just in the studio without the sense of what it means to be on a stage, to be in front of people and sharing that of which you're creating. At one point, perhaps in such an intimate, vulnerable, and individual space.
Totally. Yeah, like just by seeing your energy live is infectious because you can feel it between the bond that you and all the musicians and the goons have together. How did you tap into that like natural groove of freestyling live to where it feels so organic, to where a lot of times people don't even know? From what I've heard in the crowd, people can't tell what you're freestyling or what isn't freestyled. As like a follow-up question on top of that is like, would you say your travels or your major of like being a philosophy major in college like helps add to that ability to like hone into that natural live performance? Yes.
I think there's an element of philosophizing what I would say is the centrality of philosophy, the body of knowledge, the process of philosophizing, if you will, which is inherently improvisational and is kind of freestyling with your thoughts, right? Like pondering and thinking on something and delving into the mystery. You don't really know. It's not like confirming, or it's not like it's perhaps analysis, but it's not necessarily abstracted, but it is in a realm of you're having to create and invent ideas and ways of communicating the info / symbolizing it, while also you're just investigating experience of some sorts. And I would say that these are beneficial qualities that enhance any given freestyler's ability, for that matter. To kind of the more first part of your question, I think, as with anything, the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature, right? I think, and I do thoroughly believe this kind of blending the philosophy to it, that the universe itself is an improvisation, that this isn't planned, this isn't prepared, this does have, right, like relative, we won't call it, rules or like jam ethics or perhaps rhythms that have been going on for what seems like very long periods of time, something like gravity. But it I think is inherently spontaneous, it's inherently vibrational, and it's inherently kind of dance-like, where the goal is not to a place, but in the essence of being in itself. So from that, and kind of a next tier down, back to Earth, freestyling for me is something that every human does, that every animal does, that every plant does. And for me, the realization process spawned on noticing that I was freestyling all the time, which really allowed me to hone the craft. Because in some ways, once you become aware of that every human interaction, every interview, every muscle, every reach for the beer is inherently spontaneous. Even planning, for that matter, like, hey, Spacey, let's meet up here tonight. All of this kind of arises in this music. You could kind of see it in a musical lens or a musical symphony of sorts. That was profound on a level for influencing my philosophy, influencing my freestyle capacity, love, and then the first and simple point, I just loved it, so I did it all the time, and that's really what makes you better. It's funny, we've talked about this outside, obviously. It is like a muscle in a way, where I do think it's one of the most masterful ways of communicating one's mind, because there is a trust, there's vulnerability, you really don't know what you're going to say, and you're allowing that to be at the forefront of the expression, while simultaneously you're thus able to say things that you would have never said before had you not suspended that kind of belief or tightness on attention, on speech. So there's this kind of loosening, and from there it's been such a transformative, almost meditative, almost, almost revolutionary experience and practice in my life, that I've just done it really every day, since kind of falling in love with it, and so that definitely helps as well.
Yeah, totally. Because I remember you saying too, and I felt it as well, that like adrenaline rush that you get from really tapping into the flow. And like, I don't know if you feel a similar way, but do you have, like, from meditating or like freestyling, do you ever feel like a tingling sensation almost?
Oh yeah, for sure.
In your lips, or like you're feeling, it's like electricity almost.
Have you ever had a kava?
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere like that. Yeah, 100%.
That's trippy.
There's if you do, there's like different asanas or different pranayama, like breath works, where you breathe with your tongue out and like curled. I can't even do it well.
Yeah.
And you do that for an extended period of time, focused on the tip of your tongue. One of the first things that definitely transforms is the sensation of your tongue, which, yes, it's, as with all energy is vibration, but one of the most intimate sensory, devices into which, it does feel like it kind of transforms the inside of you in a different way than different things, just because it's so close to what we call home,
Really?
So it's funny, you saying that makes me think of that. Yeah. No, 100%, feel the tingle. The tingle means it's working. Yeah, just like that mouthwash.
That's so fucking sick. Over time, like, once you were in that transition period of like graduating, pandemic happening, And you know that like you're not ever gonna stop making music. What was like that next level of like when you got to reconnect with the group, the goons moving back to Long Beach to be like, this is our mission now, like what's on the horizon from here?
Well, a couple elements. I think it feels like every time I bring it up, it's like, wow, that was pretty lucky, right? Like, I was born in Long Beach, lived there for 2 years, then lived in Pasadena for 8 years. My mom happened to move from New York to Long Beach. That could have been many places, right? And then the fact that a couple of the goons were from Long Beach could have been many places. And then a couple goons that weren't from Long Beach ended up moving back down, / we met other individuals. Like there's been some, change of interpersonnel. And then expanded into those communities and kind of mutual friends and then built up again. There's definitely been a element of chance and just blessing, right? Where I just have to say we couldn't even have planned that. Secondarily, I think for me personally, becoming a father, graduating, right, as anybody that's experienced that, or coming of age in any way, turn 20, 21, those things come to mind of like, all right, what is the jam? These different precedents, these different pressures and factors to support. And obviously I've been working full time since then as well in different fields, but it's been like, wow, like it has to be music. It's going to be music, and it's going to be writing. It's going to be hip hop in whatever form and in whatever time and length. That's a type of dedication that equally is kind of, I wouldn't say chance in the same way, but it's involuntary. It chooses you, right? And so I've been chosen for that matter. And then with collaborating with the goons, it was just kind of like so obvious. Once we were back down, we all survived COVID, things started to open up again. I had a baby, we all moved in. I was like, so you want to start jamming again? And it was very natural in that way. And similarly natural to now, like I'd say, there's a level of dedication that shows. We've done 100 shows. We've been together for now, going on 8 years. And also there's been a super casualness to it that, albeit once again, we're still trying to up refine our edges of our craft in all ways, from exposure to social media to diving into the actual live shows, etc. There's always room for improvement. But I think there's been a kind of casual and a frontal level of just like, we're friends, we're family, we're homies, and this is what we love to do, so let's do it together. That has really motivated or has really enabled us to kind of stay as an entity for this long period of time, because we've seen a lot of bands come and go, and a lot of people being in music and then kind of having to back out for a variety of reasons that I'm just honored to have them equally down to go on this crazy ride, in the same way that I feel inclined to. So. Yeah, no, it really brings a smile to my face to think about, truly, because it is something to be grateful of every day. Shouts to the goons, yeah.
For sure. All the synchronicities that lead to being able to lead that kind of life are super wholesome.
Oh yeah, dude. And if you told me like this is what I was doing, or like, again, some of the experiences I've had, if you were to tell my 13-year-old self that this was on the road, I would be in tears of like joy. Yeah. Like, no way, you're kidding? You're telling me we're gonna do this and that and that? Like, oh my God, I'm so in, And so we're living the dream for sure. We're living the dream, absolutely, and we're cherishing that in every second that we still are, Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, truly,
and I'm
truly.
Like, hear and feel the energy every time we get to link up and
100%,
see each other.
dude. Yeah, that's mutual. That's mutual. Yeah.
Do you, in a sense, feel like family and music? Like music is your family in a sense.
Yeah.
And like building that community through live performances and collaborations is just like making that family bigger.
Yeah.
But in sense of like, just like the way the world feels on like a collective energy, and just like the kind of hand in hand that goes in between like local activism and arts communities and DIY scenes.
Yeah.
What's your take been on just like the opportunity, or like almost the responsibility of having Quadroon as like an opportunity to build community and family, but also as like a platform to like speak out against things and use your voice in a way to like talk, like do you like to use your voice in that way to like talk about corruption, or like really bring people together to like tap into that like authenticity and magic that we all have?
Well phrased, Ruby. And I gotta, Now be careful how I answer this, but I want to, I guess, be clear, with this. Every artist is a rebel. Every artist is born out of a struggle, right? Every true artist, every real artist. And that struggle can be packaged in so many different ways. Go out and talk to people. Go and meet and listen and see and have your heart break. It's all around. There is a necessity, there is a responsibility, there's in some ways like there's a core at every artist which risks itself via its expression. And that expression, that vulnerability, that communication will, by its definition, be in some sort of emotional, political, economic, social, philosophical response, rebellion, challenge, inquiry, exposure. So yes, every real artist is, because that's what artists are. They're mirrors. And if you look at the world from a variety of ways, we're ailing, we're suffering, we're effing up so badly. As humans / just what the inner potential of what is seen with an artist, which is known of, wow, we all are of this essence of possibility of being artists. We all are artists, and that's why. So you run into that paradox, and so, yeah, I think I tend to be somewhat
why is all the fucking concern? You like it or you don't like it?
politically naive or more local oriented in terms of impact, as well as I leave specific conversations to be had by those professionals that have trusted and studied in those ways. By no means am I a politician by any means, but yeah, there are thoughts, there are responses, and there are things that can be put out that art, music, comedy, painting can do in ways that have the ideas seep in better than, so to speak, a lecture, right? For the mass populace, as well as just for the emotional impact that's associated with certain things, which are very hard to understand when they don't affect maybe one's given environment of immediacy, and when news streams have become more susceptible to delusion and propaganda in such a way where I honor like what Clear Vision's doing, like creating genuine, authentic, and localized and human-oriented information streams and network beacons, right, of artistry. It's impeccable. It's really one of the best things we can do. So yes, I do, and no artist should stray away from that. While also simultaneously, what I think the artist transformation is perhaps not exclusively, but it's going from victim to healer, right? And I think there's a lot of, unfortunately, right, even money to be made, clout to be had, communities to be brought in by complaining via art. And that, I think, is disrespectful to the core of artistry, which is, once again, not merely creating community through shared struggle, but creating the conditions in the vision of how to transcend and overcome that struggle, right? And that's the actionability, that's the orientation, that's the creativity, that's the possibility where I truly believe artists are those that are set to change the world faster and better than any other type of person we want to label. And I think an artist can, as anyone, is any type of profession, right? So it's not even exclusive in that way.
For sure, yeah. Similar to like you saying everyone's freestyling.
Yes, right, yes.
Or like ASAP Rocky's album Testing is the idea that artists are all crash test dummies for humanity. And like
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I
That's
resonate
cool.
with that one.
That's cool.
similar to the idea of like being a rebel to society, being able to really like speak your truth through your personal experience is like being that crash test for humanity.
Yeah, the crash test dummy. Yeah. On the front lines, if you will. You know?
Yeah, especially on, like you're saying, like coming from being a victim to becoming a healer as an artist versus like other people who almost like commodify art in a level to where people resonate or bond over mutual struggles.
Yeah.
And I've seen like the way social media and like the current generation of artists have been hit with this idea almost of like really all like bonding, almost like trauma bonding through those mutual struggles.
For sure.
Of, like,
And hey, there's a space for that, right? Like there's a total space for that. And so that's not to hate on that, and like we all need that in different ways.
Yeah.
But I think like at the core of your question is like, hey, do you like, you know, it's kind of like, hey, do you think this is important? And it's like, yo, it's the most important thing for any artist, because if the center of any artist is community, you look into your community and you attend to the struggle, right? You attend to the devastation, you attend to the discrimination, and you echo those voices, and you literally have those experiences, whether they be personal, internal, or external. And you can kind of see in the bigger sphere that is the motivation, that's the energy of which artists and art is born out of, as well as the same, if you will, kind of messes that it seeks to clean up in some way and or bring the awareness to the reason for its messiness, which might not even be clean-upable or meant to be cleaned up, perhaps, you know? There's a whole series of conversations which can inspire that, but the point is the conversation, the point is the communication, the point is the awareness, the point is the lack of letting it slip through the cracks. And that comes from voices, and it's never been easier to be an artist. It's never been more prevalent that there's more artists around, and there's a total power in that. And to your whole question, we can't just all be our own artists. We gotta see that we're all artists. We have to do that together in a way which is different than just looking at your own Instagram following or interested in
being able to literally get activated or engaged.
Which Spacey, I mean, you got to turn the camera around for a sec. Like, I mean, as you know, if you're watching this, that's what you do, right? And so that's why we've connected so immediately and bonded for that, because we're artists for artists, you know? And in that way, we continue to expand and welcome the community of artists while in some ways like sanctifying like the rights of genuine expression in the centrality of human communication, you know? And in that way, somewhat saving the irrational while also still posing the pragmatic. And, you know, music's so intelligent now, it's so wide-ranging. I mean, you can learn everything from music. I've learned so much from just the mere lyrics to the emotional undertones to the experiences to the you know, go into a live performance, obviously, and seeing what that really requires and takes. And so, yeah, the not only the necessity and the core, shall we say, value of what the live performance offers now and will offer in the future, FAI. Obviously, coming together as people and as community and as artists is not only the best thing we can do, it's really the only thing we can do to preserve the sanity of what it means to be a living creature, you know?
Literally,
yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful what you touched on. We do have like an overabundance of artists and people recognizing that nowadays, to where we just need to be able to interact more in person and get off these phones to really just experience it, getting engaged, having social interactions, communicating.
Yeah, just like we're doing right now. Just like we're doing right now, right? And if you catch us on the phone, that's cool. Again, it's some ways technique and technology independent. It's more intentional. It's more oriented in the presence of that given experience, you know. So many blessings to you, Spacey, for holding the space here. Many blessings to Clear Vision Collective, to all the Quadroons out there, all the goons, okay? And yeah, I look forward to us being able to do this again in the near future.
Totally. I know we got a dip out right now. Is there any last things you want to shout out or mention? That's
Hey, okay, this is kind of separate, but shout out to Ancient Wisdom, shout out to Miles Ryder. We got a album project coming at the top of the year. We had a single release, self-titled of the album, Ancient Wisdom, featuring Oji Davey. Check out, we have a lyric video for that track also out and available. And then, yeah, feel free to check out the YouTube channel, Quadroon on YouTube. I have quadroon.org, has links to all the socials. We've definitely been putting out some music videos for the Goon material, as well as my own, somewhat self-produced in some range, as well as collaborative. And yeah, we got projects with DCOS coming out, Dean Ricker Manning once again, my boy Andrew. So there's many stuff to be on the rise of Quadroon material. And yeah, I appreciate you giving me some space to shout that. But definitely Ancient Wisdom, one of the things I'm most excited for, and probably the next big project, once again, coming at the top of next year. Yeah, shout out to Miles. Yeah.
You heard it here first in the Quadroon universe.
Yeah.
Coming up soon.
Word up. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.